talking to Chris Cranie from Smartdesc today, charity IT specialist. He's our co-founder and director. First question, are IT budgets very specific to each charity?
In some ways, yes. I've been working on budgets on an annual basis for the last 13 years or so. Those I prepare and manage, and sometimes I do new audits for new customers as well. You'll see the same things over and over again. Some good things, you'll see some not so good things in terms of the budgeting process, and you'll see a lot of different systems being used. I suppose it doesn't quite answer your question, but yes, they do have common points, but they're not the same.
That's obviously quite familiar for a lot of organisations. What's actually involved in preparing an IT budget?
I'd say the most important aspect is going to be preparation. I often see budgets done as a copy-paste exercise where you'll have the previous year's budget that's then being moved forward into the next financial year. And I see these as, there really are wasted opportunities to introduce cost efficiencies and to invest the money a little bit more strategically in the organization. To break out of this copy-paste cycle, you really, I suppose there's a few steps I'd recommend that you do. Firstly, the budget sponsor will need to work quite closely with the IT team or the outsourced IT provider and create an IT program based on, I suppose the best description is an IT health scorecard. So this will help you prioritize what's really important for the organization and keeping the organization stable and secure. The IT program also must point to the organization's strategic objectives, where it really needs to go. It's a good example maybe that I use sometimes when talking to customers. There's no point in having an ultra secure organization with a massive amount spent on security if that security prevents the staff members from doing their jobs. So you need to make sure you have that engagement with staff members so you can understand what are their pressures, what are their challenges when you're designing that budget. So make sure you talk to people, talk to senior staff, talk to service delivery staff, and the key IT influencers at the organization. Once you've prepared an IT program which effectively designs how you get there, dealing with some of these IT health issues that you have, it's then really about costing that program. And again, you'll need to work with your IT team. You have to work with your outsourced IT provider to get that information. Sometimes it involves getting quotes or talking to IT companies about what they can offer, how they can help solve your problems. Sometimes there'll be bigger projects, and if those bigger projects might need some initial design in place to actually figure out how you're going to solve that problem. So it's not uncommon to have to actually spend a bit of money prior to actually being able to understand what you're going to need to spend. This is often quite common. Some organizations also have digital teams, and it's really, really important you understand the scope of what that budget. A good example is digital teams often have websites in their budget, but do they also have the security testing for those websites? And if they don't, do you include them in the IT budget? So those are kind of two key steps. The first one, making sure you've got that program in place. The second step, you document the cost for that program. And then I suppose the final bit is the glamorous part. We actually crunch all that data into Excel and get it in a format that's not only solves that year budget problem, but also gives you a template to work from. So you can start to track how your IT spend is across the organization.
That sounds a lot to think about. But yeah, I mean, just thinking about on the security, you mentioned security there. That's obviously high on everyone's agenda at the moment. And there are so many products everywhere. How can a charity sort of keep themselves secure affordably?
Yeah, that's a real challenge. I think the question really reinforces the point of doing a health scorecard, of understanding where your organization is in its IT maturity. It's really important you spend the money in the right way to address the bulk of the organization's security risks affordably. And depending on your IT situation and the type of organization you are, this could be, it might be a perimeter firewall, or it might be some GDPR training for your staff members. You've got to identify what your key risks are, and you're only going to get that through really important internal discussions, and then understanding what your risks are, and then understanding what your spend is. Another second thing that's important is just to be requirement-led, not supplier-led. You'll get a lot of suppliers contacting you. They'll say, this is a fantastic new product that will solve this problem, or this is a new AV. It's not based on definitions. It's based on, intelligent AI analysis. Really understand what your requirements are as an organization before you jump in and purchase products, because products are not going to solve problems. Okay, products can be part of the solution, but they're not all in on themselves the solution. Ultimately, when going through this, I've found a really good balanced approach will solve the bulk of those risk issues. I think the final bit is just to make sure you get really good advice. There's a lot of really good discounts available for charities from a security point of view. Microsoft offer a lot. And if you go to various charity digital websites, you'll be able to find other products which are, depending on the size of your organization, which are really good and can offer you a lot of cost savings. So get the right advice.
If an organisation wants to overhaul its budgeting process and take control in the way that they've described there, where should they start?
Go through an audit to find out where you are, benchmark your IT. You may need help to do this, which is okay. If you have an in-house team, a purely in-house IT team, it's important to engage with them and so they understand why you're doing this. Often in-house IT teams can feel a little bit threatened when you bring in outsourced providers or third parties to come in and do audits to explain why it's important. If you're already using an IT outsourced provider, have a chat with them about what you want to achieve and what kind of information you need. And if you're not getting the information you need, then you can talk to other organizations such as Smartdesc to be able to give you a bit of a snapshot as to what's going on. You can then take that and then actually work with your existing IT provider to try and improve your in-house IT. But the bottom line is it always goes back to understanding where your health is and understanding where your risks are and then being able to move forward from there.
Okay, that's great. Big question now, really, just to finish off. What is your software and tool of choice?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I've been doing budgets for 13 years. I think probably the only tool I've used every single time has been Excel. If you talk to my colleagues, I typically tout it as the one-stop shop for budgeting. But to be honest, when it comes to managing IT budgets, I find it's the only thing that's flexible enough to be able to give me what I need. When you're working with a specific organization, they will have an in-house financial system, and that will need to have budgets done in a certain way. You have to make sure you can deliver the end result in that format, but you don't have to work in that format. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're using an off-the-shelf system and you need to present account codes, which are things like IT security, website security, and you have to say how much you're spending and when you're going to spend that, make that spend. You need to be able to have a record of what components make up that IT security. You can't just put one line in for IT security. So maintain something separate in Excel with detailed information about what budget items there are, how much it's gone up since the previous year, what your VAT is included in that, whether it's a US product, a UK product, a European product. And then once you've got that, a simple pivot table will then put all that data into something that your finance director will love, and then it can go inside the system. So Excel. And, if we're doing budget audits for customers, I just then give them a copy of my template. It's what I use.
Thanks for that, Chris. That's really valuable and helpful information. If a charity or a non-profit organisation wants to find out more, how can they contact you?
Sure. Well, we've got our website, obviously, www.smartdesk.co.uk. We have an email address, solutions@smartdesk.co.uk. That's with a C. If you're interested in finding out about what we do or how we can help, then we're running a free consultation. Basically, we'll be able to talk to you for up to an hour, understand what it is your challenges are your charities facing, give you some ideas in terms of what we think you should do. That may well be something that we can help you with. It may well be something that your existing provider can help you with. That's all fine. And there are also some free policy templates that we can give through to charity customers as part of that process.
That's great. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, Tracy.